Hello everyone. Today, I want to talk about something that all of us can relate to, the power of new beginnings. Life, as we know it, is a series of cycles. We are constantly moving, evolving, and transforming. Yet many of us hesitate when faced with change. We cling to the familiar, the comfortable, even when it no longer serves us. But today, let's explore how embracing new beginnings is not only necessary but deeply empowering. I want to draw from the wisdom of ancient philosophers and relate it to the struggles we face in our daily lives. Think of Heraclitus, the Greek philosopher who famously said, "You cannot step into the same river twice." His point was simple yet profound. The world is in a constant state of flux, and nothing remains the same. The river flows, the water changes, and so do we. Heraclitus invites us to acknowledge that change is the very essence of life. Instead of resisting it, we must learn to flow with it. In today's world, this idea holds tremendous relevance. We live in an era of rapid transformation. Technological advances, shifting social norms, and global challenges that constantly reshape our lives. Our routines, jobs, relationships, and even our identities are subject to change. And yet many of us struggle with this. Why? Because change can feel uncertain, intimidating, even threatening. It pushes us out of our comfort zones, forces us to confront the unknown. But let's remember the words of Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor. He taught us that it is not the external events of our lives that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. In his Meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This wisdom is particularly important in the face of life's challenges. While we cannot control the fact that change happens, we can control how we respond to it. When we face new beginnings, be it the start of a new job, a move to a new city, or the end of a relationship, we often feel fear. Fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of leaving behind the comfort of the past. But as Marcus Aurelius suggests, this fear is born from our own minds, not from the change itself. The key to overcoming it is within us. It's about shifting our perspective and seeing change not as an enemy, but as an opportunity for growth. Let's take a moment to think about our daily struggles. How many of us wake up every morning feeling the weight of responsibilities, work, family, financial pressures, and the constant demand to meet expectations? The stress can be overwhelming. In such moments, it's easy to feel trapped, to believe that we are stuck in a cycle of repetition with no escape. But this, too, is an illusion. Each day, no matter how routine it may seem, offers a new beginning. It offers the chance to change our attitude, to change the way we approach our challenges, and ultimately, to change ourselves. Jean-Paul Sartre, the existentialist philosopher, believed that humans are condemned to be free. What he meant by this is that we have no choice but to make choices. Every moment presents us with decisions, and it is through these decisions that we shape our lives. For Sartre, the burden of this freedom can be heavy. After all, it means that we are responsible for our own existence, but it is also incredibly liberating because it reminds us that we are not defined by our past. We are defined by the choices we make in the present. So when we are faced with new beginnings, we must remember that we have the power to choose. We can choose fear, or we can choose courage. We can choose to stay in the past, or we can choose to embrace the future. Now let's bring this into the context of the modern world. We live in a time of unprecedented change. The pace of technological development, the uncertainty of global politics, the climate crisis, and the upheavals in social and cultural norms. All of these create a world that is constantly shifting beneath our feet. It can feel like we are being swept away by the currents of history, with little control over where we are going. But as the philosophers have taught us, we must not focus on what we cannot control. Instead, we should focus on what we can do, how we can respond to this ever-changing world. In times of great change, there is also great opportunity. This is where we can bring in the teachings of Friedrich Nietzsche, who famously said, "That which does not kill us makes us stronger." Nietzsche believed in the transformative power of struggle. He believed that through facing challenges, we have the opportunity to become stronger, to transcend our limitations, and to achieve greatness. When we face challenges in our lives, whether they are personal, professional, or societal, we have two options. We can resist the change, clinging to the past, trying to hold on to what no longer serves us. Or we can embrace the change, face it head-on, and allow it to shape us into stronger, more resilient individuals. This brings me to the idea of Kaizen, a Japanese philosophy that emphasizes continuous improvement. In today's fast-paced world, we often feel pressure to make big, drastic changes all at once. But Kaizen teaches us that real, lasting change comes from small, consistent steps forward. Each day, we have the opportunity to begin again, to improve ourselves, even if it's just by a small amount. Over time, these small improvements add up, and we find that we have transformed ourselves and our lives in ways we never thought possible. So, as we navigate the challenges of modern life, let us remember that every challenge is an opportunity for a new beginning. Every struggle is a chance to grow, and every new day is a gift, offering us the chance to reinvent ourselves. One of the great philosophers, Confucius, who said, "Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." Life is full of falls. We will face setbacks, disappointments, and losses. But each time we rise, we become stronger. Each time we rise, we embrace a new beginning. And in doing so, we transform not just our lives, but ourselves. Now, as we continue our conversation on embracing new beginnings, as we discussed earlier, change is inevitable, and every new beginning offers us the chance to grow and evolve. Now, I want to focus on the fear of the unknown, the fear of failure, and how overcoming it is essential if we are to reach new heights in our lives. As we move forward with new beginnings, fear is often the greatest obstacle in our path. This fear can be paralyzing, making us doubt our abilities and potential. But if there is one thing we have learned from the great thinkers throughout history, it is that the greatest achievements come not from avoiding fear, but from facing it head-on. Let us turn to the Stoic philosopher Seneca, who once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Seneca believed that much of our fear comes from our minds, our tendency to imagine worst-case scenarios that often never materialize. Think about how many times we've held ourselves back from pursuing a goal because we were afraid of what might happen. We worry about failure, rejection, or humiliation, and in doing so, we build mental walls that stop us from moving forward. Now, imagine a child learning to walk. They fall, they stumble, but eventually they find their balance. The child does not fear the fall because they have not yet learned to be afraid of failure. In the same way, we must unlearn the fears that limit us. Life is about taking those first steps, even if we fall, because it is through falling and getting back up that we find our strength. When we look at the challenges we face in our daily lives, be it career setbacks, personal loss, or financial struggles, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. But these challenges, much like the metaphor of the roaring river in our previous discussion, are the very currents that push us toward growth. They are not meant to stop us, but to propel us forward. It is not the challenge itself that defines us, but how we respond to it. One philosopher who speaks to this concept is Søren Kierkegaard, the Danish existentialist. Kierkegaard believed that anxiety or fear is the dizziness of freedom. He argued that when we are faced with the infinite possibilities of life, we experience fear because we are afraid of making the wrong choice. This fear of making the wrong decision often leads us to avoid making any decision at all. But, as Kierkegaard reminds us, inaction is also a choice to remain stagnant rather than grow. Think about how many opportunities we've missed simply because we were too afraid to take the leap. We stand on the shore, looking at the vastness of the sea, terrified to step into the water. But if we never dive in, we will never know the joy of swimming, the thrill of discovery, or the satisfaction of overcoming the waves. This fear of failure, of making mistakes, is something that we can all relate to, especially in today's world. We are constantly bombarded with messages that tell us to succeed, to be perfect, to avoid failure at all costs. But let me remind you of something Aristotle once said. He who has never learned to obey cannot be a good commander. What Aristotle meant was that true wisdom and strength come from the experience of failure, from learning and growing through mistakes. It is only by facing our fears and embracing the possibility of failure that we can truly succeed. In today's fast-paced, competitive society, we often feel immense pressure to get everything right on the first try. We are afraid of being judged, of not living up to expectations, and so we play it safe. But let me ask you this: has playing it safe ever led to greatness? Has staying in your comfort zone ever helped you achieve your dreams? The answer, most often, is no. Let's turn to the words of Eleanor Roosevelt, who said, "Do one thing every day that scares you." This powerful piece of advice reminds us that fear is not something to avoid. It is something to embrace. When we do the things that scare us, we expand our limits, we push the boundaries of what we think we are capable of, and we grow stronger with each step. Let's bring this back to our modern, everyday life. Think of the countless decisions we face, from choosing a new career path to speaking up in a meeting, from taking the first step in a new relationship to starting a personal project we've always dreamed of. Fear often tells us to wait, to reconsider, to stay comfortable. But what if we listened to that voice of fear and decided to act despite it? Nelson Mandela, a man who knew a thing or two about facing fear, once said, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear." Mandela's life is a testament to this. He did not ignore fear. He acknowledged it and chose to move forward anyway. And in doing so, he not only transformed his life, but the lives of millions. We too must learn to triumph over fear. Every great achievement, whether personal, professional, or societal, was accomplished by people who were afraid but chose to act regardless of that fear. They chose to cross the roaring river, even though the current was strong. They chose to dive into the unknown, even though they might fail. Let's talk about fear in the context of failure. Failure is often seen as the enemy of success, but I would argue the opposite. Failure is not the end. It is a necessary step on the path to success. As Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, once said, "I have not failed. I just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Edison understood that failure was not something to be feared, but something to learn from. Every failure brings us one step closer to success. So, how do we apply this wisdom to our lives today? In a world where uncertainty is constant, whether due to economic instability, personal struggles, or global crisis, it is easy to feel paralyzed by fear. But we must remember that fear, in itself, is not the enemy. It is our response to fear that determines whether we stay stuck or move forward. Take small steps. Start by confronting the fears that hold you back in your daily life. Whether it's having a difficult conversation, starting a new project, or simply trying something new, each act of courage, no matter how small, helps us build the strength to face bigger challenges. One of the greatest men in the history, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who said, "Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." Overcoming fear is about forging your own path. It's about stepping into the unknown with the belief that no matter what happens, you have the strength to endure, the resilience to grow, and the courage to succeed. So, as we face the challenges of our daily lives, let us not be held back by fear. Let us choose courage, let us choose action, and let us reach new heights in our personal journeys. As we continue our journey through the themes of change, fear, and now, perhaps the most crucial of all, resilience, In our first two discussions, we explored the inevitability of change and the necessity of facing our fears. Now, I want to focus on something that ties them both together: resilience, the art of rising after every fall, and the ability to persist when life knocks us down. Resilience is what keeps us going when fear tells us to stop and when failure makes us doubt our path. If we're to make the most of the new beginnings we've discussed, and if we're to overcome the fear that often paralyzes us, resilience becomes our greatest ally. It is resilience that allows us to learn from failure, to adapt, and to continue moving forward even when the road ahead seems difficult or unclear. Let's begin with the words of Friedrich Nietzsche, who famously said, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." This quote has been repeated so many times that it's almost become a cliché, but its truth is undeniable. Nietzsche understood that suffering, hardship, and adversity are not just obstacles to overcome. They are the very things that strengthen us. Each time we fall and get back up, we become a little more resilient, a little more capable of handling the next challenge. This concept of resilience applies perfectly to the challenges of modern life. Today, we are constantly bombarded with pressures: financial strain, health concerns, societal expectations, and the fast pace of technological change. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, especially when things don't go according to plan. But this is precisely when resilience becomes most important. It is during our toughest moments that we have the opportunity to build strength, to sharpen our character, and to discover just how much we are capable of enduring. Let's reflect on the teachings of Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. Frankl, who endured unimaginable suffering in Nazi concentration camps, observed that those who survived were not necessarily the strongest or the fittest, but those who found meaning in their suffering. Frankl's famous quote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves," speaks directly to the essence of resilience. It's not about avoiding pain or hardship, but about transforming it into something meaningful. In our everyday struggles, whether it's the loss of a loved one, the end of a relationship, or a professional setback, resilience is the force that helps us rise again. But as Frankl taught, it's not enough to merely endure hardship. We must find purpose in our suffering. We must ask ourselves, what can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? By doing so, we not only recover from adversity, but we come out on the other side wiser, more empathetic, and more prepared for the next challenge. Let's also consider the wisdom of the Japanese philosophy of kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with gold. In kintsugi, the cracks of the broken object are not hidden. Instead, they are highlighted, making the object even more beautiful than before. This philosophy teaches us that our scars, physical, emotional, or mental, are not something to be ashamed of. They are symbols of our resilience, proof that we have faced adversity and come through it stronger. Each time life breaks us, we have the opportunity to repair ourselves. And in doing so, we become even more beautiful and resilient. In today's world, resilience is more important than ever. The COVID-19 pandemic has tested all of us in ways we never imagined, disrupting our lives, separating us from loved ones, and creating uncertainty about the future. But if there is one thing that has become clear, it is the incredible resilience of the human spirit. We have adapted. We have found new ways to connect, to work, and to support one another. We have proven that even in the darkest of times, we can rise again. Let's think about resilience not just in terms of bouncing back, but also in terms of transformation. The Greek philosopher Plato once said, "The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself." This is at the heart of resilience, the ability to overcome our internal battles, to rise above our own doubts, fears, and weaknesses. True resilience is not just about recovering from setbacks. It's about growing stronger through them. When we face challenges in our lives, we often focus on external circumstances, how the world is unfair, how things didn't go as planned, how we've been wronged. But Plato reminds us that the greatest victory is internal. It's about mastering our own reactions, controlling our own emotions, and choosing how we respond to adversity. This is the essence of resilience, not allowing external circumstances to define us, but using every setback as an opportunity to grow. Let's also bring in the wisdom of Stoicism. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This quote captures the very heart of resilience. Life will throw challenges our way. That's inevitable. But how we respond to those challenges is entirely within our control. We can choose to see ourselves as victims, or we can choose to see ourselves as survivors. We can choose to be broken by adversity, or we can choose to be strengthened by it. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to feel defeated when things don't go as planned. Whether it's a failed business venture, a missed opportunity, or a personal loss, setbacks can feel like the end of the road. But the truth is, setbacks are not the end. They are a part of the journey. As the great inventor Thomas Edison once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Edison's resilience, his refusal to give up in the face of failure, is a lesson for all of us. Success is not about avoiding failure. It's about learning from it, adapting, and continuing to move forward. In our everyday lives, resilience can manifest in small ways. It's the act of getting up in the morning even when we feel defeated. It's the decision to try again after a setback. It's the quiet determination to keep going, even when the path ahead is uncertain. These small acts of resilience, over time, build a foundation of strength that allows us to weather even the most difficult storms. Let's not forget the words of Maya Angelou, the renowned poet and civil rights activist, who said, "I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it." Angelou's life was marked by hardship, but she never allowed her circumstances to define her. Instead, she used her experiences to grow, to inspire, and to create lasting change. Her resilience serves as a powerful reminder that we, too, have the power to rise above our circumstances and shape our own destinies. So, how do we cultivate resilience in our own lives? First, we must accept that failure and hardship are inevitable. They are a part of the human experience. But rather than fearing them, we must learn to see them as opportunities for growth. Second, we must develop the mindset that every setback is a lesson. When we view challenges as stepping stones rather than roadblocks, we begin to see that each fall is an opportunity to rise even higher. Finally, we must surround ourselves with a supportive community, people who encourage us, lift us up when we fall, and remind us of our own strength. As we continue to navigate the challenges of life, let us remember that resilience is not about being unbreakable. It's about being able to rise again after being broken. It's about finding the strength within ourselves to keep going, even when the odds seem stacked against us. And most importantly, it's about embracing the cracks, the scars, and the imperfections that make us who we are. In closing, I leave you with the words of Winston Churchill, who said, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. No matter how many times we fall, no matter how many setbacks we face, it is our resilience, our ability to continue, that will ultimately determine our success." As we bring this discussion to a close, I want to leave you with a sense of how deeply interconnected these three ideas are: embracing change, facing fear, and building resilience. Life, as we all know, is unpredictable. It throws challenges at us that we never expect, and it asks us to navigate paths we never thought we'd walk. But in the face of all this, we have choices. We can resist the inevitable changes, remain paralyzed by fear, and allow failure to define us. Or we can choose a different path. We can choose to embrace change, to see it not as something to fear, but as something that brings new opportunities for growth, new experiences, and new ways of seeing the world. We can face our fears head-on, knowing that it is only through confronting them that we can begin to live fully. And most importantly, we can build resilience, We can develop the strength to rise after every fall, to learn from every failure, and to continue moving forward no matter how difficult the road becomes. As we reflect on the wisdom of the philosophers, poets, and thinkers we've discussed, Nietzsche, Frankl, Angelou, Epictetus, and many others, let us remember that their insights were born out of hardship. They too faced immense challenges, and yet they found the strength to endure, to grow, and to thrive. This is a strength that exists within all of us. In your own lives, you will face moments of doubt, moments when it feels like the world is asking too much of you. But in those moments, remember that you have the power to adapt, the courage to confront your fears, and the resilience to rise again. The journey of life is not about avoiding struggle. It is about transforming through it. So as you leave today, I encourage you to carry these 3 lessons with you. Welcome the changes that come, be brave in the face of your fears, and never underestimate your capacity to bounce back. You are far more resilient than you know, and with each challenge you face, you grow stronger, wiser, and more capable of handling whatever comes next. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your willingness to reflect deeply on these important themes. Together, we can embrace the constant evolution of life, face our fears, and rise resiliently from every fall. Stay strong, stay hopeful, and keep moving forward. Thank you.